Good afternoon, everybody. I hope this day is finding you well and you're doing great and your day is being productive. We have a special
This day is finding you well.
moment today that I want to go ahead and go over. And what it is has to do more with being in the moment with your partner. Now, I know we've discussed this a lot in the past, but not so much in some other ways. And it was a video that I watched last night that really set me in this motion because it brought tears to my eyes. And it just happened to be because somebody was so busy they didn't stop to notice that their spouse was trying to get their attention. And in the process of that, the spouse lost her life and he was left devastated with this memory of her just saying, hello, hi, me. And he didn't give her that. So with that, I want to discuss how important it is to be mindful, to be in the moment, to really consider people outside of yourself. Because things are detrimental. There's consequences to every action. And the biggest consequence to us is we're losing our partners. We're losing out on time that we could have had. We're losing out on ourselves and we're giving up. And that's really what it boils down to. So here we go. If you're in a relationship, I don't care if it's with a partner, business partner, friends, your children, that's a biggie right there. Take the time. Life is busy, and we know life is busy. Okay, so here's some things that you can do which would help change how you're approaching different areas in these relationships. Look at your calendar, see what time you have, set an hour. Even if it's an hour, it's not quantity, it's quality. So if you're sitting down and just having a great conversation with someone that you care about, that goes a long way. If you're married, set a day. Go enjoy yourself, a date night, a meal. Go have a meal with your partner. That goes a long way. See, this is what can happen, and this is the ugly truth. We can lose our partners any minute. And they can walk out the door and never return. And it could be because a horrible accident, which became fatal, like that video I watched. Or you're killing your relationship a little bit every single day by ignoring those people who matter to you. Because they're hurting. They're dying a little bit every day waiting for you. So what do? How do you handle this? Well, how you handle this is you give them time, acknowledge them, spend some time. If you're in a committed relationship, set one day a week, regardless how busy you are. Set an evening. I don't care if it's 2-3 hours. It's an hour. Go share a meal together. Enjoy that time that you have with one another because it's so important. Your children, they come up to us and they ask questions all the time, and they want to know stuff, and they got questions, and we get really busy, and we're like, not now, not now. And I know it just at that moment, it's just really not important to us, and it's not because we're busy, but what's not important to us is important to them. So when you start pushing them away, what you're doing is you're sending the message that what's important to you doesn't matter, and here you go. You're killing that relationship a little bit each day because they're not going to forget it when they get older. And friends, have you ever called up a friend and you have so much on your head and you really need to talk about it? And so you call them up, and instead of saying, hey, how are you? Is this a good time? You're bombarding them with what's going on in your life, instead of actually having a conversation with them and taking that time to build on that, and so they can say, what's going on? How are you doing? Well, what's happening is, well, I really kind of want to talk about that if you got a moment. I need a vent. But it's building it into a conversation and not just expecting it to be that they're always going to be there to listen. Because if you're ignoring them and you don't care how they're doing in that moment, why should they care how you're doing in that moment? And then you have coworkers. For those who are in management or just regular workers, well, you know, we have people around us, and everyone has their own personality. Everyone, from the moment they wake up, is going through their own struggles. You're not alone in struggles. Everyone's suffering from something. It could be depression because they're depressed. It could be they're hurt because maybe they got into an argument with their spouse, or their children just are teenagers and driving them crazy. Oh, I know this one so well. I have a 14-year-old, and yes, she does. She pushes every single one of my buttons daily, just about. So here we go. Do you want to be that person that looks back a year from now and says, man, if I would have just did this? Okay, well, guess what? What happened last year? You can't do nothing about it. What happened yesterday? You have no control. You can't change it. But what you can do from this moment forward is change your mindset. And your mindset is being considerate of those around you. Don't take people for granted. And it's simple as, if you're in a committed relationship, spending time with your spouse. Even if it's at night, you don't have any other time, pillow talk is so nice. Just, how was your day, honey? And actually engaging in that conversation and listening. Your children. Okay, so you're busy at that very, 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 very second and you can't stop what you're doing. Okay, tell them, stop. I understand what's going on is really important. Can you give me 10 minutes? And I will be right there with you. What you're doing at this point is you're not stopping what you're doing because you can't. You're unable to maybe at that moment, but you're acknowledging that what they're trying to tell you is important. And that's going to go a long way with them. And then follow through with that and go sit down and talk to them. Let's see. Also, there is, again, your friends. Now, your friends, they are your backbone. Whether you want to admit it or not, they are your backbone. Here I am. I have friends since I was a kid, and they are still my friends. And oh my goodness, what would I do without them? I don't know, because I don't want to know a world without them in it, because they mean that much to me. So every now and then they're struggling with a problem, or I'm struggling, and I'll call them and I'll be mindful and say, hey, how's it going? And do you have time? Because I got some things on my head. Do you have time to listen? And if they don't at that moment, they'll set the time and we can talk about it later. I mean, this way I'm being mindful of their time and being considerate and not taking their time for granted, because you can hurt your friendships as well. They call me up, same thing. If I have that time, if I know I got 15 minutes, I say, I'm here for you. I only got 15 minutes, but I'll give you my 15 minutes. And there's always ways to handle this. And see, as you can see, we've just taken what could be a sore negative, and it could have been, and turned it into a complete positive situation. And that's how we want to consider doing that. It's like that video I watched. This man, he's rushing around their house or their apartment, and she's trying to get his attention. And she just sits there and she's like, and then she smiles because I guess she's used to it. And then she starts writing him a note. She leaves him a note. He's at work. He gets a phone call. And you'll see that on my timeline for my friends. It's a very sad video. He gets a phone call from the police department at the hospital and telling him that his spouse died in a fatal accident. Okay, so now he's like, oh my God, he just lost his wife. He goes home, and right there on the coffee table is that note from her. And she's trying to tell him, they're going to have a baby. He could have hugged her. He could have been happy in that moment with her, but he was so preoccupied, he didn't give her at any time at all. So there was no time that was given to her. So here we go. This, by doing something like that, she died. Okay, unfortunately, in the video. But imagine this a different scenario. Here's our scenario. She didn't die. But what he did when he did not care enough to listen, he killed her emotionally a little bit because what she's trying to tell him didn't matter. So each time somebody does that to you, they're killing a little bit more of that emotion. They're taking more of your heart and they're hurting you. So eventually, one day you wake up and you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? You don't care about me. And you leave. So now, this person has lost what could have been the best thing ever in their life. And why? Because didn't give the time that was needed to nurture that relationship. Because nurturing any relationship is so important. And that doesn't mean if it's a child, a friend, a spouse, a parent, a brother, a sister, a coworker. I mean, these are all nurturing to maintain something healthy. And how do you do that? And this is how we do that. Now, I see I got several people with me today. I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing Healing Hands. Please share. Hit the share button. Click it. Hit the share button. Send me some hearts. Let me know you're watching. Click the share button and share it out there, because how do we help other people? By making them aware that this is available to them. Okay, and I'd really appreciate that very much. And I'll thank you in advance. So, relationships, again, they're pretty rough. So why don't you tell me, is there anything that you're struggling with in a relationship that you feel maybe you could have done better? Or maybe something you could have changed? Ask away. I'll be happy to answer those questions. And what struggles are you having? Are you having interpersonal struggles with just people? Are you in a time in your life where maybe things are just not as easy? I mean, there's so many different aspects to anything within us as a person that affects what's going on around us. You know, because we get these blinders. Oh, I'll give you a prime example. And this is me. So this is me owning my shit. Okay? When I was going to school, I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology. And when I was going to school, I was extremely busy. I mean, so much so that I felt like some days I was going to pull my hair out. And that's okay. I mean, we all get like that. Studying is not always easy, and especially when it's that extensive, or you're researching and you're taking some extremely hard classes, whatever it may be. But I remember my daughter coming up and saying, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I was in the middle of reading. And instead of turning around and saying to her, this is, as you can see, I'm studying, this is not a good time. Can you come back in an hour when I finish reading my required text? I didn't do that. Did I set the book aside and say, okay, you know something, I can use a break? I did not do that. I just turned around and told her, Scoot, go away, I'm busy. And that was my response. Okay, that was not a good response. So we're all guilty, is what I'm telling you, of doing this. None of us are blameless. And you don't think about it at the moment, because depending on your psyche at that very moment, where you're at, are you overwhelmed? Are you feeling stressed? I mean, whatever it may be. I mean, it happens, and you got to forgive yourself too for it. So forgive ourselves for the past of where we were not mindful or was not there for somebody, and let's make a change now. Let's move forward starting today, making everything different. So don't worry about what happened yesterday. You're not in control of it. I'm not in control of my yesterdays. All I can do now is make today's better. We are 15 minutes into this, and I am not going over anything else other today than this topic. So we can do a short one today. I'm guessing we're going to do about maybe 30 minutes. I'm doing it earlier in a day than I normally do. And why am I doing that? Because I had to go somewhere. I had to get dressed. And as a result, I was like, well, I'm already dressed up. I don't have to get dressed up to do a video because I try to look semi-okay when I do these with you. And because I'm being mindful of the fact that I'm in an area of expertise in this area, so therefore I should at least present myself that way. Being mindful of you. Because if I came in here and I was wearing a Dago tee, they call them, tank top, and whatever. Last time I did, I was real busy, and the last session I did, but I put a sweater on, but my shirt said goddess, which was hilarious, actually, if you think about it. It's okay. It's okay. So back to relationships. Now, we've all had breakups. I mean, God knows we have been on this earth quite some time, depending on your age. And you've had relationships. You've had successful relationships, but then maybe you're not with that person anymore. So what you do is you take the ending of that relationship, because remember, it takes two to end a relationship. It's not just one. It takes two. So there's something maybe you could have done differently, which would have gave the outcome of your partner's reaction to you differently. So, I mean, whether we want to admit it or not, I mean, it takes two. My ex-relationship was probably the most unhealthiest relationship I had ever had. And I'm not going to get into that because, I mean, it's just unnecessary. But I've asked myself, what could I have done better? What could I have done? So that's just something we need to ask ourselves, because it does take two. For someone to react this way, there's something I did which may have created that reaction. So we need to be mindful of that. Maybe I was busy, or maybe I wasn't getting the key points that maybe my ex-partner needed something that I just was incapable of giving. I'm not, or I don't know. I never did figure that out. It's over, so I don't dwell on it. But here we go. You're going to meet somebody if you haven't already. And the moment you meet them, it's this honeymoon stage, and it's beautiful. And you're there for them, and you listen, and you're so very attentive, and you give all your time, and you do all these sweet little things. Then you get comfortable. That's a very bad place to be. Comfort. Comfort can hurt so much because you forget that this is how you were in the beginning, and now you don't feel like you have to be that way anymore because you have this person. So, but yet this person's sitting back thinking, I want the person I met. Who are you? Okay? You're not the same person anymore. You flipped the script. And so it boils down to this. Authenticity. If you can't be authentic from the very beginning of that relationship with the individual and be the way you are today with that person and be the same way 10 years from now, because you are authentically being yourself. You're not putting more out there to pull the person in, and then once you got them, well, I don't have to go through all that anymore. I don't have to do all that romance. I'm sorry, but you really do. You do. It doesn't end. A year into a relationship, it doesn't end. Your partner still needs romancing. Your partner still needs those date nights. Your partner still needs a pillow talk. You're not going to be any different with your kids. Think about it, from the time they're little till they get older. The only way you're going to deal with them differently is the way you approach subjects with them, because what you would talk to a 5-year-old is not what you would talk to a 15-year-old about. So, but you're mindful of what's going on in their little heads, right? And if they hurt themselves or their friends or whatever the circumstances are. So here we are. Why would you stop being mindful of your partner? Why would you go ahead and do all these wonderful things in the beginning of this relationship and do flowers or whatever it is you're doing, you know, the whole, oh, I'm going to win him over type mentality, and then stop. Or invite him over for meal. Oh, I'm going to cook for you. You know, do all this neat stuff, and then next thing you know, you're together a year, 2 year later, and like the flowers stop, and I don't feel like cooking. Cook for yourself. I mean, just this mentality. It's almost selfish if you think about it, because you go from wanting to give and giving so freely to taking it back. So these are things that you really need to think about when you're in a relationship, and that you're always authentic. Be who you are. Say what you mean. Do what you say. So if you say, I'm going to do something, you do it. I mean, don't say you're going to do something and not. That is another thing that wears out on that relationship, and it pulls from it. Because now here's your partner saying, well, I can't rely on you. You tell me you're going to do something and you don't. Or have you ever got that response from somebody where they're like, oh yeah, in a little bit. Okay, so when is a little bit? You really need to give times. You can't say, oh, in a little bit. Okay, when? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Give a time. I've got to the point when someone tells me, yeah, I'll call you later. Okay, what time are you going to call me? I want a time. Because then I'm sitting here, I can't do what I need to do because I'm focusing in on, oh, I'm going to get a phone call at a certain time. No. My time's valuable, and that takes up space in my head, which interrupts my daily stuff. So therefore, give specifics. Don't just say, yeah, later. No. Don't do that. Give a specific time and stick to it. You know? All right. Looks like I got a little bit of makeup right there. Give specifics. And if you say you're going to do something, follow through with it. Because otherwise, it's going to, after a while, it's going to be like, yeah, whatever. Okay, you say you're going to do that. Sure you won't. So now you've people losing faith in you. And if children lose faith in you, can you imagine? I mean, your kids, you tell them, yeah, we'll do that. And then they're just looking at you like, yeah, you say that all the time. Or your spouse looks and says, oh, really? Okay, I'm not going to hold my breath. I mean, you want people reacting to you that way? No. So be mindful, be in the moment, be considerate, talk to them, talk with them. It's not all just about you. There's another life there too, and you have to remember that. And that is what making sure you don't take someone for granted is being mindful. They have needs too. You're not the only one. And once you remember this concept and you remember that, things are going to be so much better between you guys. I promise. So if you're suffering in a hardship relationship right now, stop. Go home tonight. Sit down. Take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I don't care how much time, but take some time. Sit down with your spouse. Have a decent conversation. Share a meal. Watch a movie together. Go take a walk. Go to the park. Do something with your spouse. And open those lines of communication. And make sure that you're engaging in this conversation and you don't have a different conversation going on in your head at the same time. Have you ever done that? Someone's talking to you and your mind's 100 miles away. You're everywhere else, but in that moment. So make sure that you're not only in the moment, you're engaging, you're being mindful of them. Don't take people around you for granted, because you'll wake up one day and they'll be gone. And some, there's never a second chance because they're gone for good. And you need to remember this. So, with that said, we have a little under 4 minutes left for today's Healing Hands and how we can become healthy in our daily lives and how we can become healthy with those around us and have successful, wonderful relationships. And this is how we do it. So I gave you the tools. I gave you some homework. So again, tonight, you're in a relationship. Your relationship is hurting. It's time to start repairing it. And the key to this is, don't worry about yesterday. And don't bring that up in your conversations. And do not use you. Do not start arguing. You can't change what happened yesterday, but you can sure change what happens right now and tomorrow and the next day and the next day after. So it's time to start having healthy relationships. Don't take those around you for granted. With that said, we're going to wrap this up today, and I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful week. And please send messages if you're looking for a one-on-one and you need help and some time. I'm here for that. I'll be happy to help you. We can discuss what you're needing. I always do an intake. So I ask a lot of questions, and I usually take about 15 minutes with you. And this is a verbal conversation because I need to know where you're at. And then I'll tell you some things I want you to do. And then we will set up our first real session. But in the meantime, enjoy your day. Be a happy, healthy, successful, in the moment you. Bye all.